you told yourself you wouldn't do it again. Maybe it was opening your ex's Instagram at 2 a.m. Maybe it was saying yes to something you desperately wanted to say no to. Maybe it was reaching for a drink, a cigarette, a bag of chips right after you promised yourself you were done. And then you did it anyway. And the worst part? It wasn't even that satisfying. You knew it wouldn't be, and you did it anyway. So what is wrong with you? Nothing. Absolutely nothing is wrong with you. But something is wrong with what you've been told about habits. And today, I'm going to show you exactly how your brain manufactures behaviors you hate, why willpower is almost always the wrong solution, and what actually works. Stay with me, because the last part of this video is the part nobody talks about, and it might be the most important thing you hear this year. Here's something your brain does that sounds helpful, but is actually kind of terrifying. It automates everything it can. Your brain is, at its core, a prediction and efficiency machine. Every single second, it's managing thousands of processes: your heartbeat, your balance, your breathing, your body temperature, and it does all of that without asking you. Because if it asked you every time, you'd be completely overwhelmed. So your brain developed a shortcut system. Neuroscientists call it the basal ganglia, a deep, ancient part of your brain that stores behavioral patterns as automatic programs. Think of it like your brain's autopilot. Now, here's where it gets interesting. When you repeat a behavior, any behavior, your brain starts carving a neural pathway. The more you repeat it, the deeper that pathway gets. Scientists call this long-term potentiation. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Early on, you make a conscious choice, but after enough repetitions, that choice disappears. The brain has decided, this behavior is efficient, I'm automating it. It moves the behavior from your prefrontal cortex, your rational thinking brain, down into the basal ganglia, into autopilot. And here's the cruel part. Your brain cannot tell the difference between a good habit and a bad one. It doesn't care. It doesn't judge. It just sees pattern repeated, reward received, automate. That's why you can brush your teeth on autopilot. That's also why you can spend 45 minutes doom scrolling on autopilot. To your brain, same process, same machinery. You're not weak. You're just dealing with a system that wasn't designed to make you happy. It was designed to make you efficient. Now let's talk about the actual structure of a habit, because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. MIT researchers in the 1990s ran an experiment with rats in a maze, and they found that every habit, no matter how complex, follows a three-part loop: cue, routine, reward. The cue is the trigger. It's the thing that tells your brain, run the program. It could be a time of day, an emotion, a location, a person, a smell, a notification sound, anything. The routine is the behavior itself, the scrolling, the snacking, the avoidance, the outburst. The reward is what your brain gets out of it. And this is where people get confused, because the reward doesn't have to feel good. It just has to relieve something. Stress, boredom, loneliness, anxiety. The reward is whatever your brain was actually hunting for. Here's a real example. Someone feels overwhelmed at work. That's the cue, overwhelm. They open Instagram. That's the routine. And for a few minutes, their brain gets a hit of novelty, stimulation, escape. The overwhelm temporarily disappears. That's the reward, the anxiety relief. Now, here's what's terrifying. Over time, your brain stops waiting for you to feel overwhelmed organically. It starts producing the craving the moment it anticipates the cue. You're not even at your desk yet, and your thumb is already reaching for your phone. That's called anticipatory dopamine. Your brain is preloading the craving before you even feel the discomfort. You're not addicted to Instagram. You're addicted to the relief from anxiety. Instagram is just the delivery mechanism your brain chose. And this is why attacking the behavior almost never works, because the behavior isn't the problem. The behavior is just the brain's answer to a problem it's been trying to solve, maybe for years. Let's go one level deeper, because this is where it gets really personal. Most toxic habits aren't random. They're adaptive. At some point in your life, most often when you were much younger, this behavior was a solution, a survival strategy, a way to cope with something your brain couldn't process any other way. The person who overeats when they're stressed, maybe food was the only reliable comfort when everything else felt chaotic. The person who goes completely silent in conflict instead of speaking up, maybe speaking up was unsafe once, and their nervous system learned, go quiet, stay safe. The chronic people pleaser who can't say no, maybe saying yes once meant withdrawal of love, punishment, abandonment, and their brain decided long ago, say yes, keep the peace, survive. These weren't character flaws, they were ingenious adaptations. The problem is that the adaptation got fossilized. The threat is gone, but the response is still running. There's a phrase in trauma-informed therapy that I think is one of the most liberating things I've ever heard. The behavior makes sense given the history. Not that the behavior is good, not that it should continue, but that it makes sense. You're not broken. You're running old software in a new world. And your brain is not going to stop running that software just because you read a motivational quote or make a resolution on January 1st. Because that software isn't stored where logic lives. It's stored in the body, in the nervous system, in the emotional memory centers of the brain, the amygdala and the hippocampus. These are systems that don't respond to "you should know better." They respond to felt experience, to repetition, to safety, to pattern interruption done consistently over time. Okay, so if habits are this deep, this automatic, this emotionally rooted, what does willpower actually do? Not much, and here's why. Willpower lives in the prefrontal cortex, the rational, planning, decision-making part of your brain, and it is genuinely useful, but it has two major problems. Problem one, it's a finite resource. There's a concept called ego depletion, the idea that willpower runs down throughout the day like a battery. Every decision you make, every temptation you resist, every stressful moment you push through, it costs. By 9 p.m., when you're tired and emotionally depleted, your prefrontal cortex is running on fumes. And that's exactly when your basal ganglia says, "All right, I've got it from here," and runs the old program. Problem two, stress hijacks the whole system. When you're stressed, anxious, or emotionally activated, your brain shifts power away from the prefrontal cortex and towards the limbic system, the emotional brain. This is the fight or flight response. And in that state, you don't have full access to your rational mind. You are literally, neurologically, less able to make good decisions when you need willpower the most. Think about that. The moments when you most desperately need willpower, when you're stressed, exhausted, triggered, are the exact moments when your brain has taken willpower offline. So every time you failed to stick to something using sheer force of will, it wasn't a personal failure. It was biology. You were trying to win a neurological fight with the wrong weapon. So what do? Because I'm not going to leave you with a diagnosis and no prescription. There are 3 things, backed by neuroscience, that actually create change in deeply wired behaviors. First, identify the real reward, not the behavior. Remember the loop: cue, routine, reward. The only part you can realistically change is the routine, but to do that, you have to know what reward the routine is actually delivering. Ask yourself, what does this habit give me? Not what you think it gives you. What does your body actually feel right before, during, and right after? Is it relief, stimulation, a sense of control, numbness, belonging? Once you know the real reward, you can start experimenting with other routines that deliver the same reward without the damage. Your brain doesn't care which routine you use, it cares about the reward. Give it the reward through a different door. Second, change the cue, not just the behavior. This is environment design, and it is wildly underrated. Your cues are environmental triggers, and if you can disrupt the trigger, the routine never fires. Don't rely on resisting the cookies. Don't buy the cookies. Don't go to the bar when you're trying to quit drinking. Remove the cue, and the habit doesn't even get started.
Studies show that even small increases in effort, like having to walk to another room, can dramatically reduce how often a behavior occurs. Friction matters more than motivation. And third, and this is the big one, build tolerance to the discomfort that triggers the habit. This is the one nobody wants to talk about, because it's not a hack, it's not a shortcut, but it's the most powerful. Most toxic habits are coping mechanisms for discomfort, stress, boredom, loneliness, anxiety. If you can build your capacity to sit with that discomfort, to feel it without immediately escaping it, the habit loses its fuel. This is what mindfulness actually does on the neurological level. It doesn't make you calmer by magic. It literally thickens the prefrontal cortex and strengthens its connection to the limbic system.
Meaning you get better at observing a craving or an emotion without immediately acting on it. You create a gap, and in that gap, choice lives. Even 10 minutes a day of intentional discomfort tolerance, whether that's meditation, sitting with an urge, journaling through an emotion without numbing it, rewires the system at the root level. You're not trying to stop the craving. You're learning that you can survive feeling it. And the more you survive it, the less power it has. Here's what I want you to take away from all of this. You are not your habits. You are not the loop. You are the part of you that can observe the loop, name it, and slowly, not overnight, not with one decision, but slowly choose something different. The fact that you're watching a video like this means something. It means some part of you is already standing outside the pattern looking at it. That awareness is not nothing. That's actually the beginning. The brain that trapped you in this behavior is the same brain that can rewire out of it. The same plasticity that locked the habit in can unlock it. But it takes repetition, compassion, and the willingness to be curious about your behavior instead of just ashamed of it. Shame, by the way, is neurologically useless for change. It activates the same stress response that drives you toward the habit in the first place. Curiosity is the antidote to shame. Why do I do this? What is my brain trying to get? That question is worth 1,000 self-criticisms. You're not fighting yourself, you're understanding yourself, and that is a completely different war. If this video made something click for you, share it with someone who's been too hard on themselves about a habit they can't shake. They need to hear this. And drop in the comments, what's one habit you now understand differently after watching this? I read every single one. Don't forget to subscribe for more contents like this. See you in the next one.